listening to the Patriot Nation Podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation Podcast. As always, guy Pat Lane here with my man Matt St. Jean. And Matt, it's Monday, and tomorrow is April already, which is pretty wild that tomorrow is April already.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Make sure to keep your head on a swivel online because it's misinformation season anyway. And you go on there on April Fool's Day, and you don't know what you're gonna say.
I will not be retweeting a single thing tomorrow. Not one single thing until it is reported by Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or someone else. Not one thing will I be retweeting tomorrow.
I'm going to send things to at least like 3 people before sharing to make sure that it is real.
Good point. Matt's in the chat. Hello, Matt. Brandon as well. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate it. All right, let's get right into this, into the Patriots news. We have some unfortunate Patriots news. Some Patriots news that you predicted at the show last week, and actually less than 12 hours later, basically your prediction came true. But unfortunate news for me. I hate it. I don't really see the point, but nevertheless, the Patriots have cut Juwan Bentley. I guess being a captain on this team last year was death. And so we're waiting for Joe Cardona to get cut or released or
Something.
Who
They haven't
knows?
brought in another long snapper yet. But yeah, this is a lot of captains off the roster or other locker room leaders gone. Jonathan Jones, I think, falls into that category. Devon Godjaw was a locker room leader. I don't know if he should have been, but I think he was. He's gone. So a lot of guys out. And it seems like the message is clear overall that Mike Vrabel wants to clear the room for fresh growth for his own guys and to establish his own culture. I get it. I understand. I don't have an issue with that. Bentley's a guy who wasn't necessarily even a scheme fit for what they do. So, it stinks. I love Bentley as a person. He's a very good player. I wish it could have worked. I totally understand why they're going in this direction. A little surprised they didn't try to trade him or move him earlier, I think is the first thing that comes to mind, though, because the timing is strange. And Bentley's a good enough player that I feel like you can get a draft pick back for him.
Yeah, so there are a few, and Matt mentioned it on here, and I hadn't seen it. But it looks like Aaron Wilson and Savage Sports, who really is just essentially an aggregator, basically said that he was released with a failed injury designation. Now that's the only place I've seen it from.
No, that came out day of.
Oh, did it? Okay. All right, so there you go.
That's the same thing that
David Andrews.
Yes.
Yep, same exact thing. And so I guess then that's the situation. Maybe they thought he wasn't going to be able to compete at all. And as they get ready for OTAs next week, they looked at it and said, there's no reason to have these guys around. They're not going to be able to compete. They're probably not going to be ready for the start of the season. And so we go from there. That could explain it. I just, like you said, I mean, Bentley seems like a good enough player that somebody would want something for him. I mean, somebody traded a 7th-round pick next year for Lawrence Guy. Like, you would think that Juwan Bentley could get something. And so, we'll see. Maybe he's closer to the end then. But he's not, though, because I saw him at the Patriots draft event. He was there. He was on the panel. He talked to, David Andrews at, his Quick Snap podcast or whatever the case may be. So, it didn't make sense with me, but we'll see.
Yeah, I do wonder if it has something to do with the Ellis signing too, because Christian Ellis was tendered And then it was the Raiders that tried to sign him. The Patriots
Yes.
matched.
Yep.
This came a day, 2 days. No, they had to match on Monday. He got cut on Friday, but at the end of the week. So maybe that's the tie-in that they said, you know what, we're signing this guy, and you bring in Spillane, you bring in Gibbons. That right there is 3 linebackers that could play off the ball for you. Still Tavai, they just said, all right, well, this is the group we want to go with, and we're not going to keep Bentley around if we know he's not going to contribute. We're just going to go let him pick a new destination. But yeah, weird timing, because I feel like when Godshaw was traded, maybe you could have tried to do something with Bentley then, but it does come back to the failed physical thing. Maybe you couldn't have passed the physical anywhere, and so you're just not going to be able to trade him, so you just let him go find a new
go somewhere else or whatever. Yeah, that could certainly be the case. So I don't know. It's a strange situation. I don't like it. I love Juwan Bentley. I think he's a great player. I love what he brings to the team in the locker room. I think he's a great locker room guy. And so I was sad to see him go. I remember the year he was drafted, I want to say Christian Sam. That might not be right, but we drafted another linebacker in the 6th round that was like a speed linebacker or something like that. And I remember all the Patriots media. I remember especially Evan Lazar came on, but everyone in Patriots media was falling all over themselves for this speed linebacker that we drafted in a little bit later on in the draft. And I was like, Juwan Bentley's a stud. He's going to be a really good player for us. And I was like, yeah, maybe we'll see. And and I loved Bentley from the beginning. And I was 100% right. I'm not right about many things, but I was 100% right about the Bentley versus Christian Sam. And Matt does confirm it was Christian Sam in the 6th round. So
Bentley was in the 5th. They were picks 143 and 178.
Well, there you go.
Don't ask who the player was taken before Juwan Bentley.
Oh, God.
Duke Dawson.
Yikes. Not ideal.
Yeah.
Wait, they didn't have a pick from the 2nd to the 5th round?
Yeah. They had 2 firsts. They had 3 picks in the top 56. Didn't pick again until 143.
That's crazy.
And then they held 6 picks. They had 6 picks on day 3.
Was that 18?
Christian Sam. Yeah, Braxton Berrios, Danny Etling, Patriots legend, Danny Etling.
Hey, man.
Keon Crossan and Ryan Izzo. Keon Crossan, he was huge in that AFC Championship game that year.
Yeah.
As a speed
Special
corner,
he
was. When they used him, I think he ended up covering Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
in that game,
the speed he had.
He's fast, and they just it would be double coverage anyway. So it's just
right.
Run as fast as you can
with him
to try to stick with him.
Yeah. Also, we had a question about Tavai. Andrew mentioned that Tavai's contract's probably going to keep him around a little bit longer. That's certainly possible. I don't think that they have any reservations about cutting guys, regardless of what the salary cap number looks like. Johnny Tavai, he's got a decent salary cap number, and they probably will pay just as much to not have him play as they will to have him play. But if they look at it and think that he's not hacking it, see you later.
Yep. Side note, we talked when Vrabel was hired about how he had a bit of a reputation in Tennessee of getting rid of guys who were injury problems. And you notice that this is 2 guys with a failed physical designation. So I also wonder if there's a part of this that's like, hey, we're starting something new here, and you're not going to be healthy at the start of it. And we're just going to, we just don't want that.
Yeah. And that's certainly possible too. Yeah.
With Bentley, by the way, he ended up missing the whole 2018 season. But he came in at Purdue as a run stopper. That was his thing.
Oh, yeah.
Going to be known for. And I remember the preseason game. I looked it up. I believe it's the one against the Eagles.
The Eagles. It was the first game of the season. It was the first preseason game of the season.
Yep. And he had a couple nice plays in coverage. And it was an instant, because I didn't think he was, I thought he'd make the roster as a 5th round pick. I was like, yeah, he's an okay pick. And then it was like, okay, well, if he's as good as advertised as a run stopper, and he can make a couple plays like that in coverage and get back, and he's athletic enough to do that, okay, I think we found ourselves a guy. And then he doesn't play in 2018 because he's hurt. But 2019 plays well, and I think by 2021 was when he really established himself as a very good linebacker.
Yeah, he scored a touchdown in that Philadelphia game.
Recovered fumble.
Yep, I was at Great Wolf Lodge with the kids during that game, and So I remember. I just remember watching it in the room at Great Wolf Lodge and like freaking out, like there's Bentley. I was so excited.
What is funny is because I remember that he switched from 51 to 8 for a number when that was first available.
Yeah,
And the reaction was kind of, this dude thinks he deserves a single digit, like,
yeah,
but
yeah.
he lived up to it. Yeah. Which, small note, you're speaking of numbers. Stephon Diggs still looking for a number.
Yeah, which is interesting. Not gonna be in the 80s apparently.
Well, there's if we don't know the status of 18.
Quite true.
Was not issued last year after Matthew Slater retired.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's good enough to get a number retired, but they might wait a little bit to reissue it. And if that's the case, there's only 3 numbers on the table for Diggs. 8 now with Bentley gone, 16, and 80. Those are the only numbers open that are eligible for wide receivers to wear, unless he wants to wear something in the 20s or something.
yeah. Who's wearing 2 again? Who they signed that's wearing 2?
Harold Landry.
Landry, right?
Yep. 1 is Polk. He said he's not taking that.
Yeah, 3
3's
is Pop. 4 is
4's
Gibson.
Yep. 5's Peppers.
Oh
6
yeah,
Baker.
that's right. Jabal Peppers. Yeah.
7. Someone took 7.
Isn't that the punter?
No, that's 17.
Oh, 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah,
I don't know.
And you also got retired numbers in there too. After 12, no one's taking.
Obviously, yeah.
And
Clearly.
in the 80s, 89, Bob D is
retired. Right.
So yeah, I wonder if he buys it off of someone. I feel like teams have been way too careless with like giving away the single digit numbers. Because now
I agree with you that.
Now it's like, okay, receivers have like 30 different numbers that they can choose from. And right now they're basically all taken because like single digits are going to the
edge
other
rushers and cornerbacks. Right.
Yeah. Running back, like what are we doing here?
Yeah. Well, is what it is. All right. So we covered Juwan Bentley, Christian Barmore.
Oh, wait, 7's Carlton Davis. Sorry.
Yeah. That's Matt. Just sent that in the chat. I'll tell you, like, Christian Barmore going to participate next week. That's huge news for the Patriots. That's huge news for Christian Barmore. I don't know. I don't know the situation. Obviously, we're not 100% sure what's going on. But that's great news as far as I'm concerned, that he's going to at least be out there. So we'll see.
And Vrabel was made sure to mention that it was he's not doing the physical stuff, like he's doing workouts,
right,
in classroom stuff. This isn't even like, this is literally, I think, in a gym working out. There's no actual football activity,
but still,
it's like on a field.
Yeah,
and they said they're not sure if he's what the next step's gonna look like for him, if any of that. But I think Mike Reese was the one who said that there's optimism around it, and if Mike Reese is saying that, I believe him. So I'm just happy it's trending in the right direction too, because
100%.
Again, with stuff like blood clots, it's the type of thing where like there's a real chance that when whatever issue popped back up the end of last season, that may have just been, well, that's it, your career's done. And the fact that we've gotten this far means you've jumped over that hurdle. And if you've jumped over that hurdle, I feel like you're in a much better spot. And so first of all, for Christian's health, that's fantastic for his life. And for the football team, Barmore and Milton Williams on the interior has potential to be a top 5 defensive tackle pairing in the NFL if those guys pan out the way we're hoping they do.
100%, especially if you have Harold Landry and potentially Abdul Carter and Keon White around them too. And so, I think that those are all good things. So we'll see. But that's kind of where that's what I look at. And again, long way to go. But my biggest thing is I'm just happy for Barmore that there's even a chance. You remember a guy like Antonio Garcia, who Patriots drafted out of Troy, I believe. That was a linebacker, offensive tackle, and he got blood clots in his lungs, and that was it, done. and it just, his career was over. And so,
He was
he
he was
tried to,
one of he was one of 4 guys in that draft class too. That was the small draft class the
that was
Pats
the
had.
Dietrich Wise draft class. Yeah.
Yeah,
Him, Derek Rivers,
Dietrich Wise and
uh,
Connor McDermott,
McDermott, right
who
in the
and
sixth
who
round.
ended up coming back to the team
Yeah,
anyway,
that's right.
being
Yeah.
a contributor.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things where you just don't know what it's going to look like. But, that's, I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Uh,
all right. We also wanted to get into some of the comments that Vrabel made today.
Yeah.
I thought, look, some of the stuff is just boilerplate stuff, right? He's not giving away everything. But I do think that he is a charismatic guy. I think very much more so than Gerard Mayo. Mayo's fine. But, Vrabel, when Vrabel talks, I feel like people listen. And that's, it's fun having a coach like that. It's fun having a coach that enjoys talking to the media, that enjoys poking fun at people, that, is like a football guy. You know what I mean? And I'm happy to see him out there. I don't know about the specific comments of it. There's really anything that really, really stood out to me. But I just thought for me, that's what I was happy to see.
Yeah, there was what do you call it? He ended his presser with something funny because he was talking about Felger. I think
Yeah.
Felger was telling some story about how he basically like lost his final ever high school football game for his team. It was like a playoff game or something. He fumbled the ball, something like that. And Vrabel was telling the story, and clearly is like loving it. He is just enjoying so much that Felger had that happen, which was killing me. And
he's like, that was embarrassing.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
The thing stood out to me because one of the quotes that I think kind of bounced around Pat's Twitter today was Vrabel saying that Will Campbell is a left tackle, and so I've kind of been thinking about that. I hadn't watched the presser. I just read the quotes. I went back and watched the presser before this, and it totally reshaped how I viewed that quote. Because if you just view the quote, it looks like Mike Vrabel is saying conclusively that Will Campbell is a left tackle in the NFL. And then you go watch the clip, and the question that was asked was, like, are you evaluating him at left tackle? And his answer was basically like, yeah, he played there. We got to see him against good competition in the SEC, and it's not a projection because we can just watch him play the position. And it's like, okay, well, that's not saying at all that it's not a projection that he can play left tackle in the NFL.
Bingo.
You're just describing what he did in college, which kind of feels like the Bill Belichickian. Like, this feels like just the modern version of the Bill Belichickian thing where you're just going to say, like, he's just saying facts about this without anything. And just like he's not there's no juice behind these comments. It doesn't feel like there's an implicit meaning. It feels like he's just spouting off things he knows about different players and like just so you're not giving anything away. Like, I'm sure that I don't feel like we necessarily learned anything specific about what they view Will Campbell in the NFL. And like some of the other things were like, yeah, they'd have Travis Hunter play both ways, or at least they'd consider it.
Well,
okay, yeah, that's kind of what everyone expected. Like, it's most of the quotes that came out today in the context I felt were just him trying to say as little as possible.
Yeah, and I think when he talks about you don't have to project it. To me, that's a shot at Armand Bembou. That's a shot at Caden Wallace. It's a shot at guys that played right tackle in college that we're now trying to say, can he play left tackle? We don't know. Yeah. We have to project whether they're going to be able to play left tackle in the pros. We don't have to project if Will Campbell can play left tackle. We see he can play left tackle. Now, it's now up to us to figure out if he's going to be a good enough player at left tackle that he's going to be a starter or above average starter or an all-pro player or whatever the case may be. But we don't have to sit there and say, well, can this guy play left tackle? No, we know he can play left tackle. How good do we think that he's doing it? And I think that's really the question to me. And so I think that's kind of where he was headed with that, more so than we don't have to project it because he plays against the SEC. We know he's going to be good. Like, that's foolish. And I saw some people running with that and like, he just, no, That's not what he was saying. He's just saying, like, we saw him at left tackle. We don't have to wonder if he can play left tackle because we see it. Now
Well,
we
like,
have to evaluate whether he can actually do it in the NFL or not.
Yeah, you're evaluating how he plays left tackle. Versus,
Right.
like you said with Membu, you're evaluating how he plays right tackle and then projecting how those skills might transfer to another position on the line.
Right.
I did think it was interesting. There were reports today that what do you call it? That they internally do like Campbell. And he already went to New England for a visit, a top 30. I will say, pro day stuff, top 30 visits. I'm not going to read too much into anything. This team clearly needs a left tackle. I am 100% sure that at multiple they're going to meet with every single guy that they could take in the top 50 picks of this draft. I'm sure, because
you would think,
they need to know, and it's good due diligence, and also there's who they could. You got to be prepared for a couple situations. One is that you're taking a left tackle at 4. One of them is that you're trading back and taking a left tackle later in the first round. A third is that you're moving up for 1. And a fourth is that you're taking somebody at 38. Like, you need to be prepared for what tackles are on the board for every single one of those. And for the future, if who you draft doesn't work out and you need to go make a move, it's 4 years from now and you're signing for agents or you're trading for players and one of these guys comes available, you would like to have an evaluation. Then I think the last part, some of these guys you're probably going to end up playing. We know that the Chiefs are going to need a left tackle, and they're probably taking somebody in this draft. You're going to have to play them if you want to win the AFC, which is the goal here. Maybe not year 1, but by the end of year 4, you're trying to get this regime. You're trying to get to that point where you're competing with them.
Right.
Then you're going to have to go through a player like that. You would like to have the scouting report there. So, I see people talking about him going to the Ohio State Pro Day. First of all, I'm sure Vrabel went to the Ohio State Pro Day because he's an Ohio State guy. I bet he's going to go to that Pro Day every single season unless there's some kind of a conflict. But I'm sure they like Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons is a good prospect. They're going to meet with every tackle. Who they meet with is not going to tell you who they're going to draft.
Well, and someone mentioned that he didn't go to the LSU Pro Day, and so that means he's less likely to draft Will Campbell. That makes no sense. Number one, Will Campbell didn't do anything at their pro day. Number two, he's already been in for a top 30 visit. So, that's not necessarily the case. It doesn't. Why are we going to the LSU pro day? Why do we care about that? Now, Josh Simmons is on track for week 1. That is true. According to his agent, just like Stephon Diggs on track for week 1, according to his agent. Do I believe either of those agents? Not necessarily. And so I think that's one of those things for me where I look at it and say, okay, that's fine. And we can kind of discuss that and talk about, okay, how much water does that hold? I don't know. But I think the real test is going to be when he gets in the building, that top 30 visit that, hasn't been scheduled yet, but I assume it's coming, right? With Josh Simmons, when he walks in the building, let's let our medical guys take a look at him. And then we can make the decision about when do we think he's going to be ready? When do we think he's going to be there? And so, that's the way, that's at least to me, they don't care what some agent has to say or what some others talking about is going to say. And we go from there. And so I just think, to me, at least that's going to be the big question. Also, if you're just spouting nonsense about Bill Belichick in the chat, you will get blocked and reported and hunted down. Like, come on, what are we talking about?
I've seen negative comments about Bill Belichick and people saying we need to unretire number 12. So
that's just that doesn't count.
What a night in the chat.
That doesn't go. He gave away 87 too fast. No, he didn't.
Nagon did get that one right. 87 should be retired.
Screw Gronk. Screw him. Yeah, I'm glad he's made up. Screw Gronk. He screwed the Patriots over, so screw him.
He got some rings. He's one of the best players in Patriots history. I think.
Yep, and he screwed them over in 2019.
If Bob D
that's
can
a
get
fact. That's a fact. That's a
but if Bob D can get it, like the fact that like Gronk, Vinatieri, Ty Law, like these massive Willie McGinnis, these massive pillars of like the Super Bowl runs in this franchise, none of them ever numbers retired. It's just very funny to me, but there's a bunch of other random numbers that are
Well, I mean,
retired.
you're always going to have some of those old numbers to get retired
Yeah,
and things like that, but that's not the, like, it is what it is. So, but,
but yeah,
again, Gronk's made up and it's been long enough, but like, come on. Like,
yeah.
but, he's not a Patriot for life. That's just not who he is. So he retired.
Well, neither
And
was Tom Brady.
no, and I understand that. But I also understand why Brady left. And so, Gronk, on the other hand, he didn't leave. He retired to screw over the Patriots. And so that was the issue for me. So, nevertheless, we're not getting back into that right now. All right, let's go through. You want to go through some of the rule changes, and then we'll take an
Yeah,
ad break, and then we'll talk about the offensive line.
offensive line. Yeah, so they're voting on rules this week at the meeting. So I just put together some of the rules, and we're just going to go through, what they might be if they get passed, and then we can talk about if we vote yes or no for them.
Sounds good.
First one, there's a whole bunch of rules all in one. The kickoff change. So make kickoff change permanent. Talking about moving the touchback out to the 35 so that they're going to kick it into the end zone less. We're going to get more returns. And then some stuff about alignment on onside kicks and allowing onside kicks at any point in the game. Where are you on this, Pat?
So it's weird because at one point I understand it, right? And I know that they want to make this rule stick. And I will tell you that if you want to increase the amount of returns, making the touchback to the 35-yard line makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that's the situation there. Okay. But the other part of it, for me at least, I look at it and say, all right, what is the onside kick? Because I love the idea of being able to surprise someone with an onside kick. I thought it was such a cool idea, in the Super Bowl in 2009 when the Saints did it, and whatever. But it is what it is. I do think you can allow a onside kick at any time. I guess that's fine. But like, why do we care about that? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
It was just the fourth quarter last year. That's why.
Yeah, but why do you, but my thing is that if you know it's coming, why are you going to try it?
Well, because you're down and you have to.
I guess. You might make it second half or something like that. I guess fine, but like no one's trying an onside kick in the second quarter when you have to announce to the world that you're gonna kick an onside kick.
But you might try it. You might try it in the third if you're down. I think it's the scenario if you're down by 3 scores and it's late in the third and you want to go for it. Now you can do that. If assuming this passes, I will say I'm pretty sure that the average kickoff return was something like out to like the 31-yard line or something last year, and the touchback was the 30. So it was just like immediate sense to have touchbacks all the time because you're gaining an extra yard that way.
Right.
So if you bring it out to the 35, suddenly now the return's more in play, which I like. I think this is the NFL leaning towards something fun, which I like. Onside kick, like all that other technical stuff, I don't really care that much about that. They can do what they want. I like the new kickoff. I at least want to see them, it was supposed to be the 35 last year, and they changed it to the 30 at the last second. I want to see it with the 35 and give it a couple years and see how it develops.
Well, I think that's really what it comes down to is that if you really want to take it seriously, that's what you got to do. You have to do that. So
no. Would you be a yes on this one?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I would be as well. Another one, this is from Philly. The Eagles brought this one up. They want to guarantee both teams the opportunity for possession in overtime in the regular season. So this is just bringing the postseason rule to the regular season.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, whatever. If that's what they want to do in overtime, that they can make that happen in overtime. It's fine.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I don't care that much about that one. Sure. This is from the competition committee. Expanded instant replay. It's kind of vague, so I just pulled 2 sentences from an article about it that explain it. They proposed expanding replay officials' ability to advise on-field officials, quote, on specific objective aspects of a play and or address game administration issues when clear and obvious video evidence is present. And they said if the proposal passes, a flag can be picked up if clear and obvious video evidence exists in the following: a defenseless player, face mask, a horse collar, a tripping, or a roughing or running into the kicker. That?
Listen, I'm 100% on board for expanding instant replay. So interesting. I don't know exactly where they're going with it. I do think that it should go both ways. You should be able to throw the challenge flag and review whether or not it was an obvious penalty. And again, we're talking obvious, right? Like, I'm going to throw a challenge flag because, we're watching this game and the guy got tackled by his face mask and everyone in the world saw it except for the ref standing in front of him. Right? And so that's, to me, that at least is what I'm looking at. And so I'm 100% on board with expanding instant replay. Whatever that means, expand it. Absolutely.
I think I'd vote for this, but there's a little bit of trepidation for me because all I can think of is more stoppages. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, do we need, how often is this actually going to be used? Where is the threshold? Because if it's the AFC Championship game and there's 5 minutes left in a close game and suddenly we're stopping things to, go frame by frame to see, how much of a face mask was grasped for a player that wasn't near the play or something, then it's like, okay, is this actually making the product better? Is this helping? I'm all for getting things right.
Mm-hmm.
I also generally speaking would like time constraints on the reviews to say, hey, let's get everything done in if you can't tell after looking at something for 60 seconds what it is, well then it's not clear and obvious, and whatever was on the field should stand, and we'll leave it at that. And if we can, the expedited reviews, I like those. The ones where you don't even know what's going on, and all of a sudden they call it down and say, hey, you got this wrong. We're gonna do this. We're doing it like that. That I'm all on board for.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you in that respect. And so, we'll see. But expand instant replay, please. That's I'm on board with it.
I will say, there's a part of me that's like, what if we just got rid of instant replay entirely and then just didn't show replays of anything during the game or on the TV? And it's like, well, let's go back to the old days. And if no one saw it, it didn't happen.
It's craziness.
It would not be better for accuracy, and gambling would hate it, but I do think the product would go a lot smoother.
Well, Patriots wouldn't have a Super Bowl. Certainly not the first one.
That's true. That is true. So we're both a yes on that one. When the Lions proposed, it gets rid of the automatic first down on defensive holding or illegal contact.
I love it.
Yeah.
3rd and 25 and there's an illegal contact and you get an automatic first down. Stupid. Now, again, there are times when I almost wonder too, if the flag, hypothetically, if it's illegal contact or holding, I wonder if, and they probably can't even put this in there, but if the flag happens after the first down marker, then we give them the automatic first down, right? We don't make a spot foul, but it's a 5 or 10 yard penalty, but we give you the automatic first down. So, okay, I tackle your guy 15 yards downfield on 3rd and 13. Well, instead of giving you 10 yards, I give you 10 yards, but it's not 3rd and 3 anymore. It's 1st and 10. You know what I mean? Yeah. Something like that. But again, then you're talking the minutia, where did it happen and when did, and it's like, you just can't do that. Yeah. So, but I'm okay getting rid of the auto first down.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to a version like how they used to do the old face mask rule where there's 2 different penalties they can impose. You talk about doing it the way you talked about it, or if it was literally just ref's discretion, if the receiver's targeted on the play and that's the reason the catch didn't happen and the catch would have been a first, all right, we can give it then. But that's putting a lot in the ref's hands. So I would vote yes on this because I think there's some issues they can come up with getting rid of the auto first down, but I think this is still better than what we have right now.
Yeah. Also, James is right. I just want more math. He's right. It's true.
Guy. Next one from the Packers. This is the big one. Getting rid of the tush push. Now, the language of the rule here, I believe, says that you can't push a player from behind immediately after the snap. Which I don't like. Can you do a QB sneak where you have a guy stand behind and he just waits for a second and then pushes him? Is that allowed? I'm not entirely sure. Can you like let the quarterback try first, and if he can't get it, then he gets pushed?
So what's interesting is that I didn't think you were supposed to push players at all, right? The tush push. All right. Here's Mike Vrabel's quote, and I retweeted it, I believe, so because it's so good. Maybe I didn't retweet it. Crap. Maybe I just liked it, and now I'm not gonna be able to find it. Son of a. But I thought that Vrabel had a really good quote about it. Where he's just basically saying like, so like they're good at it, and so because Philadelphia is good at it, we're just gonna what like make it illegal, right? And so okay, maybe let's make. Oh, here we go. Vrabel says there are a lot of plays that are hard to defend. I don't think you can get rid of them every time it becomes tough to stop. Like Lamar Jackson shouldn't be able to run with the football anymore. How about making that rule because it's hard to defend? Like that's the type of stuff. It's just like it's the tush push, and I get it, right? I understand. 0 players were hurt during the tush push. 0.
Well, didn't Chris Jones get hurt?
Okay, so Chris Jones may have gotten hurt. Have you seen where he was lined up?
I have.
Like they put his neck on the side of someone's helmet.
Well, I think the argument here is that if you're voluntarily putting yourself in dangerous positions to try to defend the play, that's also probably something the league wants to get rid of.
I guess maybe. I don't know. I just think to me, the tush push is fine. I wouldn't get rid of it. I don't see why we're getting rid of it. But again, who knows? And ultimately, it might land, it might not.
I'm kind of torn on it because to me, intuitively, you look at it and you say, okay, we're going to take the most important player in the sport, highest played player in the sport, the quarterback, and we're going to put them in the middle of a pile with all of the strongest people that exist on the sport. And from both sides, we're going to push on that person, the most valuable person in the sport, as hard as we can. We're just going to do this every game. The fact that it hasn't resulted in an injury, at least the serious one so far, like obviously the data doesn't back up that this is an injury issue, but I also think it's hard to look at that and go, it feels like this really easily could be, especially like if every team was doing this and every quarterback was being pushed like this, someone's probably going to get hurt. And if you're the NFL, if you've put so much energy into trying to make sure quarterbacks don't get hurt, you look at this, you say, and I think if you're an owner or a GM, you might say, I don't want to be at a spot where I'm at a competitive disadvantage on the field because I won't put my, couple $100 million asset in this position.
And that's
but again,
fair point. It's a fair point.
No quarterback's gotten hurt doing it so far. So maybe it is just safe. Maybe the fact that it's such a small distance means that it's just not like there's a lot of force, but nothing that's going to cause like a massive impact, and it's fine. The other part of it that to me, I just never really thought pushing people from behind was like football. Like when you push the pile with a running back, like that's always impressive because the running back's like keeping his legs going through a bunch of guys, and like that's cool. But when it's like, I don't know. I don't care about the competitive advantage part. I love the Eagles. I love it for Jalen Hurts. I think it's so good. I don't even think banning it hurts them because they're still going to have they're going to have a super powered QB sneak. It's not going to stop anything. I think this is more about the quarterbacks who are smaller, who teams don't want to put in harm's way.
I think for me, like the plays that I hate to see, there was a play, and I don't know who it was, but like, running back gets stopped. He's kind of moving his feet. And there was a play last year where like the running back's feet then were off the ground.
Yeah.
Like they were off the ground and he's getting pushed. He's basically getting carried an extra like 7 yards. And it's just like, what are we doing? He's not doing anything. You're just carrying him. Like at that point, the guy's got to be down. The tush push is one thing. I mean, that is what it is. But I'm against the push from behind, but not necessarily the tush push. I don't know. It's one of those weird things.
Yeah, I will say I think there's also another argument that could be made, which is that the tush push is almost so good that it's anticlimactic.
Right.
On a QB sneak, there's a real chance that you stop the quarterback. It doesn't really feel that way on the tush push. So, from an
Fair.
entertainment perspective, 1 yard to go, 50-50 chance is a lot more exciting to watch than 1 yard to go and 99% chance.
Ask the Bills how that 99% worked.
Yeah. Yeah. It does make it a lot funnier when people miss right now. And that's why,
Yeah.
I think I'd be a no on banning it. I see both sides of it.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll actually end up making that much of a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
I just am against, we're Patriots fans, right? We're Patriots fans. And you're a little bit too young to remember, but the 5-yard truck rule and all that stuff exists because of the Patriots.
Yeah.
Because they just dominated the Colts so much that they went crying to their daddies and they said, we can't stop this. And they said, okay, well then we'll change the rules for you, son. It's okay. And now we're going to do the same thing for the Packers because why? They can't stop the tush push against the Eagles like that. I hate stuff like that. That drives me crazy. And so just on principle, I don't want to get rid of it, but I understand the point you're making. On principle, I'm just like, nah, I don't want to get rid of it. So
yeah. And I will say, Jamari in the chat says tush push is physical football. Spot on. And I fucking love physical football. Then that's my favorite part about it. It's really entertaining to watch a team just steamroll the other one and shove them through. I love that aspect of football. That's what we're all here. Throwing the ball around is a great time, but smash around the football is, the core of this sport. And it does feel anti-football to pass a rule that's, saying, this is a type of football that's a bit too physical.
Yeah. We got 2 more left.
Yeah.
This next one I hate so much. The basically getting rid of the division winners.
They get playoff spots, but seedings by record.
Oh, it's the worst. The absolute worst. I don't understand why. And I understand why Detroit. I get why Detroit put it up. I understand. But no, absolutely not. The divisions exist for a reason. You make them for a reason. They need to matter. Period. That's it.
Yep. Well, this to me is just sour grapes, from a team that doesn't want to end up in a bad spot because they're in a competitive division and I don't know, just win games. You're gonna win football games on the road. The Bucks won a Super Bowl in 2020 as the 5 seed. They were in a similar spot where they had a really good team that ended up as the 5 seed and they went on the road.
Yeah,
it happens. So find a way to do it. And it raises the stakes for division play, which rivalries.
That's
fun.
The thing. You want the rivalry. That's it. You know what I mean? So, but
why is there? I see someone talking about Tableau in the chat.
Biomechanics and data analytics.
God.
That's that.
I wasn't expecting something from my software for my day job to show up on here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Last one. I only mentioned this because I thought it was a little funny Patriots tie-in. This is not. There's a couple other ones that are more technical, but this one I wanted to mention. How many teams is 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 teams have proposed to allow teams to prepare the K-balls, the kicking balls, before game day the way that quarterbacks get to do with their footballs. I don't care one way or the other, but the fact that we're here a decade plus post Deflategate where we're back to let's let them alter the balls more is hilarious to me with 7 teams signing off on this, including Baltimore.
As we all know, the balls don't matter. They don't matter. It just doesn't matter. So, sure, whatever. Let them do whatever you want. I don't care. Difference does it make to me?
Yeah. The fact that this came up was funny. I felt like it needed to be mentioned. I could not. I think I say no because I feel like kicking balls are ones that should be just the same for everyone. But
yeah, which listen, it's fine. It doesn't really matter to me one way or the other. Obviously, these guys are professionals. They work with the balls all the time. They have a specific way they want it to be. I get that, right? whatever. Sure. If you want to let them do it, if you don't want to let them do it, I don't know. Like whatever.
Yeah,
Ultimately,
I don't
it doesn't
actually
really
care.
matter.
Yeah, I don't feel like we're not nearly informed enough, I think, to actually say how much of an impact that would have.
Yeah.
But it is funny to me that it came up at all.
Yeah. Agreed. So, anyways, there's that. That's what we got. So,
Yeah.
all right. Should we do our ad read and then
Talk some offensive
we'll
line.
talk some offensive line.
Let's do it.
All right. So, of course, it's ad reads for Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Springtime is here and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, take your picks of more or less for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. On Prize Picks, again, you can mix and match your scores or your sports, I'm sorry. So you can mix and match baseball with hockey playoffs, with NBA playoffs, with esports if you wanted to. And so that to me is so much fun. It's one of the best things about it. Prize Picks also does offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals. So what you're going to do is download the app Prize Picks, put in the promo code CLNS, and when you play your first $5 lineup, you get $50 instantly. You don't have to win the lineup, you just got to play it. Again, download Prize Picks, put in the promo code CLNS, and when you play your first $5 lineup, you get $50 instantly. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay. All right. So
How do you want to do this, Pat?
let's get into it. I think we run through our top 5 first, and then we can talk about that.
Should we talk overall context too of what we're doing?
Yes. So what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is we are going to start this episode. We're starting off. We're going to go position by position and break down positions. So today we're doing offensive line. Later on in the week, we're doing, I think, defensive line, correct?
We're doing front 7. So
front
today,
7, yeah.
So today is going to be tackles, interior offensive linemen. Thursday is going to be DTs, DNs, edge defenders, linebackers, all that fun stuff. Our next show is actually after that's going to be on Sunday because the Final Four, the national championships next Monday, and we didn't want to. That's going to be great basketball, I think. Hopefully,
I think so too. Yeah.
Best Final Four ever, supposedly. Yeah. But that one was going to be pass catchers, so that'll be wide receivers and tight ends. We're going to have a special guest for that one. I know we're looking forward to. We've wanted to have him on for a while. I'm glad. Glad we're making it happen. Remember the order after that? I think it might be defensive backs.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure it matters, to be completely honest with you, but the point is, right, is that every episode will be breaking down a position or a group of positions that are together, right?
Yeah.
And so again, we're not doing one for offensive tackle and one for offensive guard. We're just doing them together, right? And so, but again, that's what we'll be going through.
Yep. And then we're doing that until I think roughly a week before the draft. And we'll have a couple, final episodes before the draft to note things. Then the draft will be here. No live show for us this year for that, but we'll have breakdown episodes. We'll have you covered for content.
We'll be on Thursday night after the draft. We'll be on Friday night at some point, maybe multiple times Friday night, and then we'll be on again Sunday to do a whole draft recap. So we'll have a whole bunch of draft stuff coming your way.
Yeah, I'm excited for it, and I think our general format is we're going to give top 5s for positions. Talk about some sleepers, any scheme fits we like for the Pats, names to watch, things like that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So did you do a separate top 5s for tackle and interior?
I did, yeah. I just thought it made sense to do it that way. I don't know if we're going to do that. Like when we do the front 7, I don't know if we should do that. Maybe we can do like a defensive line in general and a linebacker in general.
Yeah.
But you talk about 4 or 5 different positions. I don't know if it makes sense to do it.
Yeah. But
Do it all the way.
so we're on the same page for this then. We just want to go through our top 5s here start with tackle and
Yeah,
go
you want
through
to
it.
start. You want to start at 5 and work our way down to 1. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I like that. This one might be a little bit controversial, but my 5 for offensive tackle is going to be Kelvin Banks.
Okay.
And he was my offensive tackle 1 coming into the year. A lot to like. My problem is that he's just kind of there's a world where he's just a tweener in the NFL, where he's not the most balanced player, doesn't have the longest arms. So there might be a world where you can't play him on the inside because he's just not going to be able to get low enough and stay on his feet. And you might not be able to play him at tackle, but there's also a lot to like. He's young. He's been a quality player against high quality teams for a while now. Got really good movement for a guy his size. When he puts it all together, he can be a franchise tackle, I think. I would consider moving him to right tackle personally because, he has some issues with play balance, like I said, but he's got some real power. And I like the idea of putting him kind of on the front side of run plays and using him a right tackle there. I think that's what I would consider doing with him.
There you go. I have Josh Connerly at 5. For me personally, I like him a lot. I think that he'd be a good fit for the Patriots at 5. I think he can play left tackle. I don't know if his ceiling is quite as high as some other guys, but I do think he can be a solid left tackle for you. And I think that, you're not drafting him at 4 overall, obviously, but if you take a different position, if Hunter or Carter drop to you at 4, or if you trade back and you don't end up with a tackle, I think that he's a guy that at the back end of the first round, if you trade up to it, or at 38, I think he's a guy that makes a ton of sense. That I don't know if he could step in day 1 and start for you, but I think he could step in and compete day 1, and I think that that would be okay.
Yeah, I think you'll see here in my rankings a bias towards ability as just a pure pass protector at left tackle. I've got Connerly at 4, and he's there's a lot to like there. He's not as much of a run blocker as Banks. He's just not a road grader.
Right.
But I think you can put him at left tackle and he'll pass protect well. I think he can be a top 10 left tackle in terms of pass protection. He might still struggle as a run blocker. You might not be a scheme guy for you there. You might have to just put him on the backside of run plays and hope for the best. I do think it's interesting because something Vrabel did mention today was, discussions in Cleveland with the offensive line where, they're talking about just resolving, differences and talking about how there's, scouts, film guys who last year were watching one tackle who was a really good pass protector. And you get to the coaches to look at him and the coaches hate the guy because he's not a run blocker.
Right.
He's just a pass protector.
Yeah.
And they said Browns didn't take that guy. So it was someone that they didn't have to navigate that internally. But I do wonder with Vrabel's background, I like Connerly here because I have bias towards the pass protection side. But if he wants guys with some nasty to him who can also be run blockers, Connerly might be a little bit lower than you might think.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that. So I actually had Banks 4, so I don't have to even discuss Banks because you already did it. So I guess then maybe I'll start off with 3. 3, I have Josh Simmons at 3.
Okay.
My biggest concern with Simmons is the injury, right? I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how good he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be able to play in 2025. But I think that if everyone were healthy, just based on his size and based on some of the questions, right, that we have with the other guys, I think that he would be the first tackle off the board. If he were totally healthy, he's not, and so that's where we're at. But so I have him at 3.
Yeah. So I don't. I have Simmons up at 2, which I said that bias towards the pure pass protection side of things.
Fair.
And this is also with the assuming the good news is true. If he's going to be ready week 1, he can go out there and play. That's why I have him up at 2. My 3 going to be Will Campbell here. And it's tough because I don't think it's hard to argue that Will Campbell is the best tackle in this draft. Even with, like, I have said a lot of negative things about Will Campbell. I'm not in the Will Campbell camp. I say that fully understanding and knowing the arguments for him to be number one, and I think there are good arguments for it. His tape is good, especially his 2023 tape. He had the highest athleticism, highest RAS of anyone in the class at tackle. And, I tend to subscribe to the idea that the combine measurements were off. So if we're throwing out the combine measurements, he's got either 33-inch arms or 32 and 7/8-inch arms. That to me is enough where you say, I don't care about the arm length. I care about what it shows on tape. And I think you see it a little bit on tape. You definitely see it a little bit on tape. But if he can continue to develop, he's got great core strength. He moves so well. Really good run blocker. Nasty there. He's the kind of guy who, he could be a very good left tackle in this league if it all comes together. I think he could probably play right tackle for you if left tackle doesn't work out. If he's good, but not quite what you're hoping. I think he could switch to the other side, and maybe it's not as big of an issue. And I think there's skills there for guard. I don't like him as a guard as much as some other people, I will say. The way he plays in this stand, he plays like a very tall player, and I worry about him getting under guys on the interior. But if it translates as a guard, I think he could be an all-pro guard. He could be so good there if everything puts together for him. So, Will Campbell's my 3.
I have Will Campbell number 1.
Okay.
I have him number 1 on my list. I think that
I said there's a lot of good arguments for him there.
Yeah,
go for it.
And listen, here's the thing for me, right? Here's what it comes down to. That's what we're talking about right there.
Yeah. That might be more.
That actually might be more than what we're talking about, right? And everyone says, "Oh, the wingspan." Who gives a crap about wingspan? Are we playing basketball? Why do we need what are we even talking about? What does the wingspan do for anything or anyone for that matter? Absolutely nothing, right? Here's the thing with him, okay? He has Hall of Fame feet. Hall of Fame. His lower half is the lower half of a Hall of Famer. And so when you're talking about an outlier, because listen, I get it. I understand. He would be an outlier. It's true. Right? It's true. Okay. The balance that he plays with, the footwork that he plays with, that matters. That matters a hell of a lot more than arm length matters. And if Dante Scarnecchia, the greatest offensive line coach in NFL history, will tell you that arm length matters, it does matter. And I'm not saying wingspan doesn't matter. Obviously, it matters a little bit. But it's not like, oh my God, well, we can't draft this guy anymore because his wingspan is small. That's silly. Right? I think that, for me, that it's just not as big of a deal because you can overcome it because everything else is so good. Right? He's also 6'6". He's not a small guy. Right? And I saw him being, one of the things, and this is, people will compare him to Isaiah Wynn. Isaiah Wynn, similar situation, undersized guy from the SEC, so on and so on and so on, right? All of these things. But Isaiah Wynn was never half of the player that Will Campbell was in college. And so, to me, I see the risk, right? I understand the point. I get it. I know who your number 1 is, and I understand your number 1, and I'll make a point against it only because, right? And we'll talk about that. But I just think when you talk about a left tackle and seeing what the left tackle can do, and looking at all the metrics, everything, to me, he's fantastic. And so, yeah, is the arm length a concern? Absolutely, the arm length is a concern. But I have concerns about everybody coming out of this draft. If Joe Alt were in this draft, he'd be number 1 on this list. He's not in this draft, unfortunately.
If Joe Alt was in this draft, there's a chance that Cam Ward's still on the board. I think when the top 3 picks might just be Alt and
Yeah,
Hunter.
all
Yeah,
Hunter
like
and Carter, right? Yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
anyways, that's for me at least. That's what we're looking at. I saw Nagan talk about comparing him with Quentin Nelson, which is like the stupidest thing of all time. Quentin Nelson never played tackle in his life. He was a guard. He was a straight up
through and
guard, and
through.
he was so good at playing guard that they drafted him at number 6 overall because he was a Hall of Fame guard. And so, like, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't work out with Will Campbell, but I look at it and say the feet, the bottom half is so good that it can overcome the top half. We'll see about that, but but that's what I think at least.
Yeah, I will say, you mentioned Isaiah Wynn. His arms were 33 and 3/8 inches, so that's like about half an inch longer than
right.
what Campbell's were. So it's definitely a difference there. One thing I will say, I think what Vrabel learns from the Skronsky experience will matter a lot here. Skronsky has even much shorter arms than Campbell. Like well into the 32s, low 32s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, different players there. And like I'm just curious what Vrabel takes away from that working with him, because let's say for a second that what Vrabel meant today when he was speaking was that Will Campbell was a left tackle.
Yeah.
If that's what he's saying that after having worked with Skronsky, a generally similar prospect who kicked inside, and then getting the tape watching of Will Campbell and the hands-on experience with him in New England on a visit. If with all of that experience, he's coming away saying Campbell is definitely a left tackle in the NFL, if that's where they land on this, then I get it. And I'm totally willing to be wrong on this. It's just, I think it also depends on how much you want to swing for the fences. And I feel like Campbell, for me, is a guy who just doesn't have a ceiling as high as my number one guy, who's going to be Armand Membu. And I love Membu. He is big dude, long arms, really athletic guy, successful in the SEC, young player. The only thing you have to do with him is make the projection over to left tackle from right tackle. If he can do that successfully, I think he's the best tackle in this class. And, even if he plays right tackle, I think there's a world where he's the best tackle in this class. I just love what he puts together. The tape's good. I like players who are trending up too, and maybe this is I don't know if this is the correct way to think about it or not, but Campbell is a guy to me who kind of peaked in 2023 and then plateaued in 2024. Membu was a guy who peaked last year. I would hope that means Membu continues to ascend up, because I think my concern with Campbell is that there's a world where he's already gotten as good as his frame can. Like, we talk about him as being so technically refined. Well, if he's already this technically refined, then if he gets to the NFL and he can't hang against edge rushers, nothing you can do to fix that.
It's fair.
You maxed him out. Membu, I don't think is there. I think there's meat on the bone development-wise with him, potentially more so than Campbell. And I think Campbell, the guy, is we're talking the 75th percentile outcome for a guy like Will Campbell. So a quality outcome, but we're not talking the Hall of Fame level. I think you're looking at a guy who's probably a Matt Light level tackle, which is good. If you get that, I think you're very happy with that. Yeah. That's a franchise left tackle.
Right.
For Membu, the 75th percentile is probably a guy who's like a top 5 tackle in the NFL. And that difference to me is worth taking the chance on Membu if he can play on the left side.
And listen, I think that's fair. I do have him at 2, so it's not like I have him far down the list. Yeah. My biggest issue with Membu is he plays right tackle. Yep. Right. And you're going to take him and make him a left tackle, right? You're projecting the fact that he can be a left tackle. Now, the point that you've made, and I think it's a good point, is that if you bring him in this year and he can't play left tackle, well, then next year you get rid of Morgan Moses and you put him at right tackle, right? And I think that that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I just think that now if you're wrong about him being able to play left tackle, you're burning a year, right? A year goes by, you've drafted Armand Membu at number 4, and you're playing Vidarian Lowe at left tackle anyways. right? And I think that that's
Well, see,
not a situation you want to be in.
I think if you're Membu, I think if you're drafting him and you're switching him to left tackle, you're playing him the full season, starting left tackle all 17 games if he doesn't get hurt, even if it goes poorly. I think you want him to do that because you want to see if he can develop. You want him to be a better player by the end of the year than he is at the beginning. You're going to see a full season and probably even training camp before you talk about switching him back to right tackle, like a training camp next year. Like you might even go 2 seasons with it before you switch him to right tackle, as long as he's, unless he goes out there and he is, below replacement.
Can't do it. Yeah, no,
level.
I get it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
But
I don't know.
And I think, one thing about the report, there's one guy we didn't talk about on here who I think easily could have been in the top 5 and interesting player in his own right is Arante Ursary out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
I think every player that we talked about is a 3-year guy in college. It might be a 4-year. One of these guys might be 4-year. But they're all younger. Ursary's been in college 5 years.
Yeah.
And he is still not as technically refined as you'd like, but he's a massive dude, elite level athlete. I think of those 6 guys, you could tell me that, you can say any one of them will end up being the best tackle in this class, depending on how things go. And I think if you're the Patriots, that's a tough spot to be in at 4 because there's a world where you're going to take a tackle at 4, and then the guy who ends up being the best tackle in the class is on the board at 38 when you pick, and you're picking a different position. And that's a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, but and I think what it comes down, and by the way, Jared just said this, and I just want to give him some shine because he's right. Blow was not as bad as people think last year. He really wasn't.
He wasn't their
great,
third best offensive lineman.
But he wasn't as bad as people say he was last year. He wasn't good, but he also didn't have a left guard next to him, and he didn't have a center. So that didn't help either. But I do think he's gotten better every year. I think there's a chance that he ends up being an okay player. Again, if you have Vidarian Lowe as your swing tackle, I'm 100% on board with that. And so,
and it does sound like the issue with Vidarian Lowe is I don't think he can be a swing tackle because he's awful on the right side. He cannot play.
I guess that's true
at all. It sounds like they want Caden Wallace to be the swing guy.
Yeah, and that might be true. But anyways, my point here that I was going to make about the whole Ursary thing is fascinating. I think, but again, for me, you're not looking at this saying, well, and I know we think of it this way. I think if you're in the draft room, you can't be thinking about the risk, right? You got to be thinking about who's the best player that I can draft in this situation. If I think the best player I can draft is Will Campbell, I'm going to do it. If I think the best player I can draft is Armand Bembu, I'm going to do it. Right. And I think that to me is the attitude they have to have. Now, if I'm the Patriots and I'm sitting at 4 and I'm having a hard time deciding between Will Campbell and Armand Bembu and maybe even Josh Simmons, then I'm desperately trying to trade out because why am I drafting one of those guys when all of them are on the board still? It doesn't make any sense. And so I think that, that to me, is where I would go. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Do we have any names down the board that we think are worth talking about here?
So I think we talked a little bit about Carson Vincent last week, who I like a lot. Again, late round pick, but I like out of Alabama A&M. Holland Pierce is a guy that I think people are to different degrees, of course, really like. Again, he's a late round pick, but I like the idea of him in the late round. And then one other guy that we really haven't talked about on here is Jack Nelson. Jack Nelson is a tackle out of Wisconsin. I like the idea of him. Again, another day 3 pick, but I think there's a chance that he can play. And you want to give me a tackle out of Wisconsin or an offensive lineman from Wisconsin. I'm 100% on board with that. And then my dad is requesting, and other people are requesting Ozzie Trapillo. I think he's a little stiff, to be honest with you. But he's a BC guy. What the heck? His dad went to BC, and it'd be cool to see him drafted. And maybe it was here. Yeah.
A couple guys I want to mention first. There's a pair of guys, Cameron Williams and Emory Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows Will Campbell and Calvin Banks. Those are the left tackles for LSU and Texas. Guys I mentioned are the right tackles for those. Both of these guys have been very athletic. They're very unpolished. A lot of growing to do, and they both played right tackle. But these are late day 2 guys. These are guys you'd be taking with one of your 3rd round picks, probably if they're still on the board. And let's say it's a world where Abdul Carter is your pick of 4, and there's a run on tackles, and you can't get one at 38. You try to move up, it doesn't work out, whatever. You end up taking a receiver, or you just like a receiver or somebody else better, and you don't go tackle at 38. One of those 2 guys I think is really interesting as, a potential moldable athlete who you could switch over to left tackle and play in that role. So guys, the only reason they didn't play left tackle was because they had the 1st round caliber guys already at the position at these schools. Their quality prospects just raw. And I think both these guys were guys who could have been 1st rounders at right tackle this year, just ended up being disappointing in the way they played. And then another name, Jalen Travis from Iowa State. He is a massive individual, almost 6'8". He's 339 pounds, and he's an explosive athlete. Surprisingly fast, 40 too for a guy that size. He has not good lateral agility, just non-existent.
Doesn't help.
Shows up on tape, but he's a left tackle, and the Iowa State offense had some good players in it last year, and he played well for them. And if you're looking to take a dart throw sometime on day 3, I think Travis is a guy I like.
Yeah, I like it. So there you go. That's what we got for offensive tackle. All right, we got to get through. We got to get through. Through guards a little quicker because we're already at 70 minutes here.
We'll go fast.
We start number 1. I think I assume is gonna be the same for both of us at Tyler Booker. I feel like
not for me.
Oh, of course not. Who's your number 1 guy?
I went Donovan Jackson.
Jackson. Okay.
My Tyler Booker is just, his testing was so bad.
Yeah.
That it just there's enough doubt there for me that I was like, if I'm taking guard, I don't think I'd want to be I don't know if I'd want to take him first. Everything else is good, but the testing is just so horrendous.
Yeah, that's fair. To me, it was just a bad day, but who knows? I have Jackson second, so it's not like it's far. Do you have Booker second?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's same idea.
And the other reason Jackson got a bump for me is just because in theory he can be an emergency tackle for you too with what he did at Ohio State.
That's fair.
That gives him a little extra value in my eyes.
That's fair. And Matt says, the other Matt says that he still trusts Alabama's offensive line until further notice, which is fair. All right, at 3, I have Gray Zabel at 3.
Okay,
I know it's a little off the board potentially, but I like Gray Zabel. I think obviously he played tackle at North Dakota State, but I like him as a guard, and so that's where I went at number 3.
Yeah, I went Jonah Savania at Arizona.
He was 4 for me, so yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I've got Zabel at 4, so we are right in the same thing here. Both these guys, Zabel and Savania, are kind of similar in that they're guys who played a lot of different spots in college.
Yeah.
I give Savania this is tied for me. I gave him the edge because he did it at a higher level of competition.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I like Zabel a lot. He, I think, is top 40 on the consensus boards right now.
It's too high. It's way too high.
Which is I like him a lot. I think he'll be a good player. But when you're projecting offensive linemen from that level, you never know. Sometimes it just doesn't translate. The strength's not there. They're not athletic enough for the next level.
Just ask Cole.
And that's it. And I like the higher floor on Savania.
Yeah, I agree. My 5 is Wyatt Millam from Michigan. Again, another tackle.
Wrong blue and yellow school.
Oh, sorry. Yep, West Virginia. I apologize about that. My bad. Yes. No, West Virginia, obviously, a tackle, but I think it's going to be a guard at the next level. And so there you go. And Andrew says he thinks Zabel as a center would be Gore. I assume that was supposed to be good, but
Zabel,
we'll forgive it.
Zabel kind of reminds me of Cole Strange in some ways, and that he's just like a super mobile dude, the offensive line who like I think if Cole Strange had been in this position in college, he probably would have done something similar where he would have bounced around a lot more, if he's playing at that school, the way they do things. Zabel's also older. Like he's been in college for 5 years, so like he should come in polished. He should come in as like a Patrick McCarry almost year one.
Yeah,
Who
and I
you
feel
could
like
plug in at any spot
I don't know if
and
that's going to
hopefully
happen
be
or
a
not.
starter for you at one of them. For my 5, I went for Tate Ratledge.
Okay.
I like the power that he brings. And this is just, I talked about how I leaned pass pro for offensive tackle. I lean run blocking a little bit here at guard. That's where
Fair.
Ratledge is. I love Wylet Milam. I don't know if it's Milam or Milam, but
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
he is. We talk about guys who have great tackle tape with short arms. I love his tackle tape. Like, I think there's a lot of really good stuff there. His arms are just be good.
Yeah, I just dropped my phone.
Yeah, if Milo had an extra half inch on his arms, I think it'd be a first round tackle. His tape against Abdul Carter was good. I liked a lot of what he did, but I think he's just gonna have to kick inside at the next level, and I suspect that he'll be a really, really, really good left guard in pass protection. Potentially like a shutdown guard there. So maybe. I honestly, for both of these positions, I feel like maybe should have been a top 6 because I feel like my 5 and 6 for each of these are not crazy far apart.
Yeah, it's fair. It's a fair point.
Yeah.
By the way, Nagan asked no love for the UGA guys when you literally just mentioned UGA guy. But what do you?
I'm talking Tate Ratledge is my 5. And then like Dylan Fairchild, good. Jared Wilson's good.
Yeah,
these guys are just like
I didn't really include centers, but
that's off at the interior.
But
the only guy who's in this, I think, would be Jared Wilson, but he's just like a half tier down, I think, from being considered in this list anyway. And you can find quality centers late.
That's the thing. Yeah.
A
few guys on my list that we've talked about before. I don't know if we've talked about Miles Frazier before, but I like Miles Frazier. I think he's a player that makes some sense for the Patriots. I don't know if he'll make it all the way to day 3. Might have to be a 3rd round pick potentially. But I like him. Luke Kandra is a guy that I've talked about before from Cincinnati, and then Jackson Slater, who we talked about during our last, I think our last live mock. Literally, as Jared said, no love for Jackson Slater. I literally said it as he was saying it. And so, timing. I think that's another guy, small school guy that played tackle, but is probably going to mostly play guard in the NFL. And I think I like the idea of people doing that. And so, again, I don't know, but there's a lot of solid names on this list that I'd be happy with the Patriots taking, which is one of the big reasons why I'm praying that, Hunter or Carter is going to be there at 4, because I feel a lot better about the Patriots getting a starting caliber tackle outside of the first round, or at least, maybe trading up from, 38 to the end of the first round.
Yeah. I only have one other guy I want to mention here, and that's Willie Lampkin out of North Carolina. Really interesting prospect. He is under 5'11".
It's crazy.
As a guard. Small dude.
Small. It's like a bowling ball.
And he's just really physical, punishes guys, technically sound, legs don't stop moving, high energy guy. Like his tape's great. Just small.
Yeah.
He's a guy who, somebody's going to take. I'm intrigued. I don't think it'll be New England, but I'm curious to see where he ends up. And I also won't be shocked if he gets converted to fullback in the NFL. I think that could work for him.
It's fascinating.
Or like the Browns in 2023 used to use 6 offensive linemen with one of their backups as a fullback, and I think you could do that with Lampkin as well. I like him. I hope he lands somewhere and it works. Did you mention Clay Webb before? We took him in a mock.
So during one of our mocks, we talked about Clay Webb. I don't think we ended up drafting him, but we kind of we batted the name around a little bit and talked about him, but we did not talk about him tonight. No.
Okay. Yeah. And then one other name, Seth McLaughlin out of Ohio State. He got mentioned over here in the chat. by Nelson.
Yeah, by Nelson. Yeah.
Who asked, would you draft him to sit behind Garrett Bradbury and learn for a year? McLaughlin's a guy who tore his Achilles in October, November. So he might be able, he might come off injured reserve or the pup list or whatever midway through the season and contribute in the back half of the year.
Yeah.
My answer to that question, Nelson, is yes, and I did that in one of my mock drafts. McLaughlin's a good player, not the best athlete. Now, when you listen to his scouting report, there's some David Andrews in there. Not the best athlete, but a really smart player, and Pats could use that.
Yeah, and that's and so again, it's for me at least. I look at it and think that if you believe that he is as good as you think, right? And again, I don't know if he is, but if you believe he's as good as you think, you draft him. You let him sit. You're getting a discount because he's probably not going to mostly play this year. Maybe he'll play a little bit, but mostly won't really play this year. And so you're getting a discount on him. And so then you say, okay, we'll kind of go from there and see what happens. So to me, I like it. You get a little bit of a discount, and then you have him sit on the bench, and you don't rush him back from his injury.
Yeah.
So I'd be on board with that. Yeah, sure.
So I think that's where we're at. We touched on all the big names. Hopefully, if the Pats take a player, well, they will take players at probably both of these positions. Hopefully, it's somebody we named on this show.
Let's hope so. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Imagine if they take like 2 tackles and 2 guards, and we didn't talk about any of them. But let's hope that doesn't happen. So it doesn't happen. Although, also, Nagan, I'm just going to ignore your trolling ass over there. I'm just going to ignore you because you don't. I'm not even gonna. You don't even get a response from me. So, anyways, that's what we got. All right. So thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you all. We're going to be back on Thursday talking front 7, and then also whatever Patriots news happens before that as well.
And hopefully between now and then, Rafael Devers gets a hit.
Oh, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Even just not a strikeout. That'd be great.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's not April yet, so none of these stats count. Nothing matters.
That is correct. That is very correct. Yes, nothing matters until April. So we'll see. Long way to go, boys and girls. 159 games left. So
they play
157. Where they played
57. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I will say this because I've watched a bunch of Red Sox so far this year. Everything about the team looks good, except for the couple core players who we're counting on. Yeah. Which I think is generally a good sign because those players should bounce back and play well, and then the team is going to be electric. But so far, 1-4 start Wolf.
Yeah. I just we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I like the fact that they locked up their pitcher today. I like the fact that they're going in on it, and I'm happy about that. They got so many young, fun players. I'm excited about that.
Roman Anthony killing it. Mayer's going to come up at some point. Mayer.
Mayer. Yeah.
So I feel like someone who is an opening day starter is probably going to end up getting traded at some point this year, just because as guys come up, there's only going to be so many spots.
Yeah. Theoretically, yeah, depending on what you can get, Yeah. So, but anyways, all right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you on Thursday. Be good to each other and go Pats.